Hello. She's alive, she's just getting used to mom life. And I have actively been avoiding this makeup room. Other than getting my daughter's clothes out of the wardrobe. I've been staring at my makeup, my brushes, and being like, not today. Mentally takes time to like sit down and want to chat to a camera or want to like just kind of even do your makeup. Today's the day and we're gonna chat through my birth story. Because I personally think it is like good, but also so funny, but also like intense and quick. And there's not a lot of like intensely positive birth stories that I've seen out there, so here's one hopefully. So I went in to see the consultant at my 40-week appointment. I was actually being really crampy, like I was crampy all that kind of week. Kind of felt like the early stages of a period, but honestly at 40 weeks you're kind of just putting everything down to, oh, this is just 40 weeks pregnant, this is just me being like overdue at this stage. So I was like, these are normal. I went in, saw the consultant, saw the midwife, everything was fine. Oh, will we do like, you know, a vaginal check or like a cervical kind of check, almost like a sweep? But I was like, no, I'm okay right now. I'm gonna wait to see. I want things to kind of like progress naturally, and if I'm still like nowhere near ready in a week's time, yeah, okay, I'll do that. But she was like, oh, you know, it's a hospital's policy that we don't normally go over a week, meaning a week past your due date. And actually they were like, right, we'll book you in for an induction for the next week. So we were booked in then for the following Thursday. Context, like the night before I'd only gotten 3 hours sleep. It was probably the worst sleep I've had in the whole of my pregnancy. So I was like up from 2:50 the night before my consultant appointment, so I was absolutely wrecked. But we wanted to make a day of it. It was like the 40-week mark, we'd made it there. And we were kind of like, right, okay, within a week we're gonna have a baby or not, because we're, you know, I'm induced, I'm gonna have one next Thursday. So we went, while we were in town, we went to like Tomahawk, we got some food, stuck in so much traffic going home to Clane, and like by the time we got home it was like 7 o'clock. That day I was so irritated, like I think I was just so heavily pregnant. I hate being in the car for too long. I was really struggling to kind of like walk and get steps in and stuff like that. So by the time I got home, I was so wrecked. I just wanted a bath, wanted to get into pajamas, put on RuPaul's Drag Race and just like lie in bed and veg for the night. That's what I did. I kind of got my bath, got my pajamas on, got into bed and just like was vegging, and then very randomly I wet myself. I was kind of like, oh, that's very strange. I didn't feel like I needed to go to the bathroom. But anyway, and I was also raging because I just put on a fresh pair of fucking pajamas and I just had a bath. So I kind of felt like minging after that. So just changed, went to the toilet, got back into bed, wet myself again. Then I started to get really sus. So I was just like, I did not need to pee there. I did not need to push pee out there. So I was like, right, okay. Meanwhile, Luke's in like the office / games room, just like playing PlayStation or whatever. And I was like, right, I'm going to put a pad on and I'm going to see, because it was clear. Do you know what I mean? I was like, is this my water's breaking? I don't know. And then you kind of think like, oh, water's breaking mean it's like a gush, but this was like trickling out. But then as I was like putting a pad on, walking around, lying back in bed, I had like no hold on this liquid coming out of me. It was trickling, so it wasn't like the big show of your water's breaking, but still I was like, oh my god. On the pad there was a tiny bit of like pink, so there was like blood there, so that definitely meant that that was my waters. Very calmly went up to Luke and being like, sorry to disturb you, but I think my waters just broke. In my head, and because I did like, you know, a lot of active birth classes and did like loads of really like wholesome classes to prep you for birth, it was like, oh, right, the plan is to stay completely calm, breathe, and you want to stay at home as long as possible to kind of keep that oxytocin going and just like be in a really good headspace. So I kind of delayed ringing the hospital for a while. I was kind of like, right, okay, let's just have a look at the hospital bags, let's like get a plan in place. I was cramping then, and then eventually I rang the hospital. I was just like, oh, we're based in Clane, and like we were going to Hollis Street, so it is a good hour to an hour and a half depending on the time in the traffic. Thankfully by the time my waters broke was around 8:30, so I rang them at about 9:30. But they were like, normally we would tell you to stay at home, but because your waters are broken, it's like a high risk of infection. So we would have to bring you in to like check you and see where you are with dilation and stuff like that. I was kind of raging because I was just like, fuck's sake, I really wanted, because I was feeling fine, I was feeling really calm. So I really wanted to like, just have like my cave in my bedroom and just like go through the motions there. But I was like, look, better safe than sorry. Let's go in, let's like pack all the stuff. Let's go into the hospital. My mom lives with me, so like luckily we were able to be like, okay, you okay to mind the dog? We'll let you know how we go. And so we set on our way to the hospital at about 9, 10-ish, I want to say. In the car, I was having my contractions. So it was like every 5 minutes for 45 seconds on the dot every single time without fail. And they were a little bit intense. Like I obviously hadn't had a period in like almost a year, so I didn't really remember what those felt like, but it was almost like just having little intense periods like on that kind of thing. Got kind of like through the admissions, then kind of went straight up to see the midwife. So kind of straight away we went into a birthing room, so like a labor room, so a private room. I was semi-private, so I was expecting to go into a ward, but because your waters broke, they just wanted to do the checks and stuff like that. And the minute I got into the room, the contractions started to ramp up a little bit, and at the peak of my contraction, the baby's heart rate would dip. So they wanted, just to be safe, they wanted to continue to monitor me. So I never actually got to like go onto a ward. I was just in the private room from the get-go. And it didn't take long. Like we arrived at the hospital at 11:30. Contractions start, like it took about almost an hour to kind of get set up and everything like that, get me hooked up on monitors and everything. And by then the contractions were starting. An hour in, I was still like 0 centimeters dilated. So I was just like, oh my God, this is going to be a long ass night. But in total, my labor was only 5 hours. So it was very, 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 very fast, which sounds great, but it means that my contractions like ramped up so fast. So I went from 0 to 5 centimeters in like 2 hours. Then I went from 5 to 8 centimeters in like an hour and a bit, and then from 8 to 10 it was almost like rapid. So I had like the wooden cones, I had like the kind of wooden balls, and that was all great for like the 0 to 5 centimeters. 0 to 5 I could just kind of feel them like down towards like my vag area. It was pretty much like where you would normally feel your period pain, and I was able to kind of just breathe through it. Like they were intense, so I was able to breathe through it. Wasn't too bad. Like it felt painful obviously, but it wasn't too bad, because once the contraction ended, it was like it never happened. So like you were forgetting about the pain almost straight away, and I had a good bit of a break. The minute it went past 5 centimeters and the minute the contractions went from like the bottom to the middle of my stomach, it was a lot. It was a lot. They gave me the gas then. The gas was amazing, but the period of like 5 to 8 centimeters, I was dilating so fast. I was not getting a break in between contractions. And like the best way that I can describe the middle section of pain is if you've ever had really painful trapped wind, like to the point where you kind of can't move because it feels like a super sharp pain, and it winds you. Think of that, but like 10 times worse. And like it just, yeah, it took the breath out of me. So I was doing so well with like really focusing on my breathing and stuff, and Luke was doing the same thing. He was really good at like keeping me on my breaths, but the minute it kind of got to the middle, it would knock the breath out of me, and I would really struggle to kind of get the breathing rhythm back in, and then I would just like start crying because the pain was so intense. And that break that I was getting in between the 0 to 5 centimeter contractions, I was not getting it between 5 and 8. So I would have that really painful contraction. I would get a break for maybe 5 seconds, and then the pain had hit again. So I just was not getting a break. So at that stage, the midwife was like, look, do you want the epidural? Now, I was going to try and not do it with the epidural, but I was not getting a minute through those contractions, and I was keeled over in pain, and I had no rest from the night before, and I didn't know how long that this was going to be, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to have enough energy to push this baby out. So I was like, yeah, fuck it, right, give me the epidural, honeys. Now the epidural was a humbling experience, let me just tell you that. Anaesthetist, or whatever the fuck you call him, was a man who was really, really lovely, but I was like in the height of the worst contraction that I have ever felt, like the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. And obviously when you're getting the epidural, like they're trying to read you through like all the ins and outs, and I'm just there going, oh my God, I can't hear you. So I was just like, Luke, say it's okay. And he, like, Luke was great. Like I had a birth plan, and I had a lot of things on the birth plan, but you just have to be so flexible. Like, you know, I wasn't expecting her heart rate to drop, wasn't expecting to be kind of glued to the bed, wasn't expecting to be hooked up to monitors. Like, don't get me wrong, the midwives were amazing. They were like, look, we can get you up on the ball, we can get you up walking and stuff like that. But the contraction, I just was not getting a break. So I was bedbound. I was like holding on to the bed for dear life and just breathing through everything. It was a lot. But I was like, right, the epidural, this is going to be great. This is going to be really quick. First of all, they couldn't find the right, like it took the guy ages to find the spot where they could put the epidural in. So they were at my back for 40 minutes before they could actually find the spot. That's 40 minutes through the worst contractions that I've ever felt in my life. And you have to stay super still. So you're kind of like like I had to tell them whenever I was feeling a contraction come on, which was like, were so frequent. So I was just like, there's one coming on. I was on the, you know, I was on the gas and stuff like that. And then when it went, I was just like, right, you're good to go, hurry up. Like, I was just like, it was very funny. I had the anaesthetist and the midwives laughing. So, but I also think that that was like the gas going straight to my head, because I was sucking on that like no one's business. Epidural in, it was going to take 20 minutes to kick in, so I was still kind of breathing through those intense contractions for 20 minutes. Once it hit, oh my God, it was absolutely stunning. Like, I just had no feeling, and I was like, okay, finally I can get a bit of sleep. That's amazing. The midwife pulled in like the kind of pull-out couch for Luke so he could get a bit of rest, because the two of us were just wrecked. And what felt like forever was only maybe 40 minutes of rest before I dilated to 10 centimeters, pretty much. So by the end of those contractions, and by the end of the epidural, I was at 8 centimeters. Then 40 minutes after I got the epidural, I was dilating to 10. So my body was like, okay, girl, it's ready to put, you're ready to push. And, you know, I was trying to do the top-up thing in the epidural because I could really start to feel the pressure down there. And the midwife came in and she like checked me, and she's just like, you're 10 centimeters dilated. Your body is pushing. I was like, oh my fucking God. And then they were like, oh, do you want to feel the push or do you want to kind of numb it? I was like, to be honest, I'd rather feel the push. So I opted not to get a manual top-up of the epidural and just let it start to wear off. So that was at that stage. So it was 10 centimeters. Then they were like, right, we're going to leave you for an hour. Oh my God, that hour was the shortest and the longest of my life. But your butt, like, it's like trying to hold in the biggest poop of your life when you really need to go. Like, that's the best way I can explain it. Like, your body's trying to push something out, and it does feel like it's at the back and not your vag. And you're just told to kind of breathe through and hold it in a little bit. And that was probably the most painful. Yeah, that was the most painful for me. Like, I can still kind of remember that feeling of like really trying to hold it in. I was like, oh my God, something's gonna rip down there, or this, if this is the baby's gonna come out. And because the midwives are kind of in and out of having their breaks and stuff like that. And I was like, look, I'm gonna have this baby and there's gonna be no one in the room. But no, that's just the feeling. It was so intense. It was time to push. No one told me to hold your own legs, first of all. So like, I'm 40 weeks pregnant, haven't actually like reached down to my legs like that in fucking months. So that was, and like I couldn't reach, so I was just like, you're gonna have to actually push my legs to my hands if you want me to push. Also, the pushing, didn't enjoy that, really didn't enjoy that. I had the mindset of like, my body knows what to do. I won't need to push that hard. Like, I didn't really want to go through the coached pushing kind of thing. I just wanted to like do the J breath, like deep breathe down the body and stuff like that. I don't know, that didn't happen for me. I had to like actively push. So it's like a deep breath in and like holding your breath and pushing. I did not enjoy that. I had no energy. I had fuck all sleep the night before. I was going 40 weeks pregnant and tired. I've just been through like the ringer with all those contractions. You just have no energy left by that time. So I was like really, really struggling to do that. And then like, you know, Maddie's head was like coming in and out, and they were just like, oh, like, just, you know, you're almost there. I got a pang of hunger in between everything as well, because I was so fucking hungry. And then I just hadn't, like, I was pushing, but I just couldn't I just didn't have the energy to push hard enough. And I think if you're pushing and the head is kind of coming like in and out for a while, then it gets a bit risky. So they were like, look, you're really tired, like you're pushing, but it's just, she's not coming all the way, like her head's not coming all the way out. Are you okay if we give you like an episiotomy? So it's like a tiny little cut. So, and again, that was something on my birth plan that I really didn't want, because I knew how hard recovery would be with stitches. Like, I have friends that had tears and everything, and it's like so painful. But they were like, look, it's either that, or if it gets too risky, like the doctor's going to have to come in and use like, you know, forceps or something like that to pull her out. Like, that is what's going to happen. And I was just like, right, give me two, 3 more pushes and I'll try my best. I just couldn't. I couldn't. And then I started bawling, crying in the middle of it, and I couldn't catch my breath, and that just kind of delayed things a little bit. I was just like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to push her out. I'm so tired, I can't do it. You know, the whole, I can't do it. Very dramatic. But yeah, so like eventually I was just like, right, okay, I agreed to the episiotomy. Tiny little cut, couldn't even feel it, and she came fucking sliding out. Head and shoulders out the gate after like 1 or 2 more pushes. And then like the stitches and stuff like that, like she stitched me up so fast afterwards, didn't feel a thing, and stitches are really neat and everything like that, so it was absolutely fine. But when she came out, oh my God, my whole world changed. Now she was like grey and gooey, but it was my baby girl, and yeah, it was just so emotional. Funny story though, there was an alarm that went off in the middle of like me pushing and stuff like that, and afterwards the midwife was like, oh, did you hear that alarm? And I was like, yeah, I did. What was that? And she's like, oh, one of the husbands in the room next to us fainted, hit his head off one of the tables and had to be rushed to St. Vincent's Hospital. I was like, oh my God. And there was one stage, so Luke doesn't have a weak stomach or anything like that, but there was like during the last end of the pushing stage, he was breathing with me. So he was holding his breath when I was holding my breath and pushing, but he wasn't pushing anything out. So he started to get really, really dizzy. And it was actually one of the midwives that were like, oh, do you want to just sit down for a second? Because they were terrified he was gonna faint. So he sat down for a minute, caught his breath, and then, yeah, then it was fine. He saw her come out, he cut the umbilical cord, everything was like amazing. Oh, it was just, and the minute she came out, I just like forgot everything. Even though my legs were in stirrups and I was being stitched and waiting for my placenta to come out, which was disgusting, by the way. But yeah, you just kind of forget everything in the moment. Now, she did have to go to the NICU for like a day and a bit, so just her vitals kind of dipped a little bit. They say, you know, they kind of take them just in case of infection and stuff like that, but they say sometimes it's just they transition quite slowly, like they're cold, they're, you know, the little bodies have been in your body for 9 months. So yeah, so she had to kind of get put into the NICU for like an overnight thing. 2 was her emotional wrecks. Oh my God, my heart goes out to any parent who has had a baby in a NICU for like longer than a fucking hour. Like it's, oh my God. And like she was the biggest baby in the NICU, you know, shown everybody up. But yeah, I can't explain like being in a ward full of other people with their babies overnight, and you hear babies cry all night, and you're in your little curtained section and you don't have a baby. It was, yeah, I never want to feel that ever again. It was such an emotional roller coaster, and your hormones are all over the place. But that's my birth story, pretty much. It was very funny. Midwives in Hall Street were amazing. It was so quick. I was very calm during the whole thing. It did fucking hurt. Like the contractions hurt. The lower end of the contractions were fine. Mid absolutely fucking knocked me out. Needed the epidural. Epidural wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. They obviously numb you and stuff before it goes in. I just didn't expect it to take that long. And yeah, it was just like that. Epidural site was like totally fine. A little bit tender a couple of days afterwards. Stitches are healing really well now, but oh my God, the first week, the pain. Now, I was forgetting to take pain medication, so yeah, I'm on my Nurofen now. But yeah, and then just general recovery down there. I just wasn't expecting it to hurt down there, even though you push fucking 3.5 kilos out of like a keyhole. But yeah, but we are enjoying our bundle of joy. I can see how people would go again, because you do just start to forget things. You start to forget the sensation, the feeling. And when you're in labor, it's a time warp. So if you could have told me that I was in there for an hour, you could have told me that I was in there for 20 hours, and I wouldn't have known any difference. You're like, and I don't think I opened my eyes much during the whole process because I was so focused on the breathing. And yeah, I just didn't have any concept of time. It was just mad. Midwives were, I loved my midwives so much. They were so lovely. Luke was amazing during it. Yeah, even the nurses afterwards, like, were just so lovely. Like, you know, the struggling to breastfeed at the start. I'm so jealous of how midwives can handle newborns. Like, I'm kind of handling her like that now, just like she's not broken. But yeah, overall, wildest experience of my life. Still can't believe it happened. I'm still kind of like, yeah, when am I going to give birth, even though like the baby's right there. But yeah, it was so lovely, so crazy, so lovely, funny. a lot of funny parts, like just being able to crack a few jokes at the end of like a contraction, and like, you know, me and Luke laughing together. Like, apparently Luke had music on in the background and I didn't have a fucking clue that the music was on in the background, because again, you're just tunnel vision, you're breathing and stuff. But yeah, that's it. So I've done a little face makeup there, just giving myself a little bit of a glow. And that's my birth story. If anyone has any specific questions, like I obviously didn't go into the nitty gritty, ooky, icky thing. But yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. But the end. Thanks, bye.